Hellebores are the best value early flowering ground cover or perennial there is. They have such a long flowering period. They'll flower in conditions that other plants don't like under trees. And they flower for ages, and they're really tough, and they'll sail through frost. So it doesn't really matter how cold it gets, they'll still flower. There's nothing else that really does that. It's a cold spring morning at Glendoick, and this week we're looking at hellebores, which are an incredibly useful, versatile, very tough plant that will do pretty much in any garden. The one I'm holding here is Hellebores foetidus. That's the native English or British hellebore, which has green flowers. It's quite a nice plant, and if you've got the right conditions, it'll just spread around on a bank. Quite likes poor soil. This is not the one that's most commonly grown in the garden. The two hellebores that gardeners will be most familiar with are the Christmas rose and the Lenten rose. This is the Christmas rose, pure white, and these are some new, improved, more vigorous versions of the Christmas rose, and that starts flowering in December. They're just starting to go past now. Certainly for midwinter, this is a fantastic plant. They'll grow almost anywhere in the garden, under trees, between shrubs, or even in containers. So the second hellebore that we're looking at are the Lenten roses, so called because they flower at Easter time. They're just coming into flower now, and they'll flower all the way through March and well into April and even into May. They come in all sorts of different colours. The great thing about these plants is that you can plant them in shady conditions, under trees, under magnolias and other things where many plants are not very happy. They come in many different colour forms. This one here is Warburton's rosemary, which is a very, very fine pink one, probably the best of them. This one I've got here is a so-called yellow one. I think cream is probably a more apt name for it. One of the most popular lots are these very, very dark purples, and you can buy them more or less to colour, or you can actually just choose them in flower. This is the really, really dusky purple one. And there are also double ones. I'm not so fond of them, but basically they have an extra set of petals in the flower. The secret of hellebores is they don't like being moved. So once you've got them in the ground, once you've planted them, just leave them where they are. They like fairly rich soil, so mix in some compost, leaf mould, that kind of thing. And so you can plant them in sun or shade, it doesn't really matter, but just leave them where they are. And if they like it, they'll seed around and you'll get lots of other ones coming up. The only thing you ever find which goes wrong with them is that sometimes the foliage goes yellow or gets covered in black spots in the winter. And that's last year's foliage. It's kind of starting to die back. So some hellebore growers cut all the foliage off in the middle of winter, and that means that the flowers are more easily seen. They're not hidden through the foliage. So it's nothing much to worry about. It's just the foliage dying back. And as I say, if it displeases you, just cut it all off. Great plants, really easy to grow, and they're coming into flower now. We've got a lovely range at Glendoick, so come in and see what we've got.